What's going on, guys? It's Doss, and last month I unexpectedly and initially spent $1,200 or $1,200 on my 2004 Ford Ranger Edge. So even though it's going to be a relatively short video, I'm going to explain that to you guys in this video. Now, I do have multiple vehicles, but this is one of the most important to me. This is my seed, my son right here. This is my 2004 Ford Ranger Edge. I've had it since freshman year of high school, so that's about 6 years now. This September coming up will be 6 years now. Of course, all my vehicles mean a lot to me, and yes, I will make a separate detailed video for all of my vehicles later on. But for now, let me explain how I spent $1,200 or $1,200 on my Ford Ranger here. Just looking at this truck, you can clearly see that it's in pretty good shape for its age. This is a 17-year-old truck by now, obviously being 2004, and I take really good care of this truck. I love this truck ever since I got it. I've just always been treating it like a baby, and I've always been taking care of it, and it hasn't really given me any problems except for, well, let's first start off with how I first started spending big money. So when I first got this truck initially had BF Goodrich tires, very, very good tires. They last for a long time. And the problem with the tires that were on the truck, they didn't look bad until you got up close to them because they were dry rotted. What dry rotted means, if the tire is just too old in general, it'll start forming cracks in the sidewall and it'll start like creating lumps. It'll be a bad ride quality altogether because it's just an old tire, and then you'll have a very bad vibration. Once you get to a certain speed, it'll just start vibrating really bad, and then things will start getting wrong. So you just need to replace old tire. Even if the tire still has a lot of tread, you still need to replace it if it's old. Like, because those tires were like almost 8 or 9 years old, which is bad. You shouldn't be driving on 8 or 9 year old tires, even if they still have tread. That's just not good. It's just rubber does not last that long. Even though they're not BF Goodrich, which is what I initially wanted, I just didn't really want to spend that much money, which would be about $1,000 something from discount tires, what they charged me. I went ahead and got these. These are a little bit off brand, but they're good enough for now. You know, I just wanted new tires, and it rides so much better with these tires. So initially, altogether for all 4 of these tires, it was $590. So $590, so about $600 for all 4 tires, which is not bad. It's a pretty good deal from what everybody else was charging me, because I initially wanted BF Goodrich tires, but these will do for now. So after I got these gorgeous looking tires, I went ahead and got them balanced and everything was good to go. So ever since late 2018, the truck has always had this really bad misfire problem. Like one day I parked it, like I went to school, I parked it, 8 hours later came back and it was just misfiring like crazy. It felt like the engine was getting ready to drop right out of the bottom of the frame. It was ridiculous. It was weird. Like I parked it, like that morning I drove it, it was perfectly fine. Came back 8 hours later and it was just misfiring. Like, it felt like all cylinders were misfiring. It's crazy. If you don't know what a misfire is, gas engines have spark plugs. The spark on the plug shoots out and it pushes the piston down, and the pistons are pretty much the main lead for the engine, because without the pistons, obviously there would be no function to keep everything moving on the inside of the internal stuff. I'm not going to get into much of that right now. We're talking about the misfire. So I had to be careful with it for about 2 or 3 weeks until I actually got enough money to, you know, go see what the problem is and fix it. So I took it to Firestone and I told him to replace all the spark plugs and the spark plug wires. Now that solved the problem for about a week. And then it started misfiring again. The check engine light came on again and it started misfiring, but it wasn't that bad. It was only one cylinder. It turns out that Firestone put a cracked spark plug in one of the cylinders, so they replaced that for free, obviously, because it was warranty because of the work that they did. And after that, it was fine. I mean, you still kind of felt it a little bit, but the check engine light didn't come on and it wasn't really like struggling as bad. So keep in mind, this is about 3 years later and I don't really drive the truck too much still, but the misfire problem came back and it was pretty much just about as bad as it was after I took it from Firestone and they replaced all the spark plugs. It's pretty much like back to where that is right there. It's kind of, you can feel the misfire is pretty bad, and the check engine light started to come on. So I was like, you know what, fine, I'll go ahead and take it to Goodyear. I don't really like Firestone anymore because the Firestone that I normally go to, they have a really bad attitude, so I took it down the street to Goodyear. So I took it to Goodyear while the check engine light was on. The truck was initially there at Goodyear for 3 days. So I dropped it off, I told them I was gonna leave it, and then the next day they called me and said it could be a recall issue. So if it is and they've already fixed it, then it would be pretty costly because they would have had to like rebuild the engine again. So the guy told me to call Ford dealership and make sure that there was no open recalls and stuff like that on the truck, which I did, and it wasn't. dent. So I was kind of like, oh damn, what if it is something serious in the engine, which I didn't think it was. Like, it can't be something this serious, this deep in the engine. So anyway, long story short, from Goodyear, they replaced the coil pack. The coil pack is what leads the spark plug wires. That's what the spark plug wires lead into. It's like a little box right there on the engine. That's what they replaced right there, what I'm pointing at. They charged me $460 just to replace that. The truck was there for initially like about 3 days, and they charged me $460 to replace that coil pack right there, that box right there that you see. You know, I'm glad that everything is solved and everything is fixed. The truck is fine. Now, the next day I was washing the truck, and keep in mind, this is already a pretty good looking truck for its age. This is a 17-year-old truck, and it looks as good as this. How would I not notice something like the rocker panels being crushed? This is normally the rocker panel. It's gonna be this little under part of the door piece, right? So that Sunday when I was washing the truck, I noticed this incredibly ugly gap right where the fender panel stops. And I know anybody would say, oh, that's nothing. You don't really notice it until you notice it, but this is my truck and I love this thing. This is not gonna look like that. I know for a fact I did not bring this truck with both rocker panels crushed in the same spot. So basically what it looks like they took the yellow arms and they tried to lift it somehow down there, and they ended up crushing that part just before it stops right at the door. If it went up to the door wouldn't seal right, and it would be all kind of wind noise, and it would rain, like the water would leak in and stuff like that. It stopped right underneath the door, as you can see, and it's just an ugly gap right where the fender panel stops, and you can clearly see on both sides it's a crush point. Like, it bows up like that. You see how it bows up? Incredibly ugly, and it's just unprofessional how they actually did this to my truck on both sides. Why not tell somebody that you did this before they find out and they come back? So I went back that next morning, and I talked to one of the apparently he was a manager, and I said, hey, you know, I noticed some crush points on the bottom, like the rocker panel's crushed in. He's like, nope, never lifted it at all. And I was like, well, can you at least check the camera stuff like that? Like, yep. And then, you know, he called me back. So I left, you know, I went in person to talk to him, and then, you know, I told him, like, check the cameras, and he was like, okay, we'll call you if we see anything. And then he called me back. He actually called me back, like, so shockingly, and he said they didn't see anything on the camera. Of course they didn't see anything on the camera. They probably deleted the footage. So I was mad. So I called my insurance and told them exactly what happened, and they said, yeah, we can cover that. That was the first time I've ever taken the Ranger to the body shop for anything, and my deductible was about $480, something like that. But it was worth it, because without insurance I would have probably paid like somewhere around $2,000 or $3,000. But it was worth it because without insurance the total price on that would have been around $3,000 just to fix those two crushed rocker panels, just because the idiots tried to lift up the truck and they just up the bottom of it just like that. It's money coming out of my pocket, but you know, I'd rather have my truck fixed. And I was just mad that, you know, it was money coming out of my pocket, even though I paid them for working on my truck and they damaged my truck. But that's, you know, how life is. There's a lot of crooks out there, and you just got to be careful with your stuff, because, you know, nobody's ever gonna tell you the truth. I take care of this truck. I will throw any kind of money into it just to give it what it needs. I don't drive it that much, so it doesn't need much. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will make a detailed video I will make a separate detailed video for each one of my vehicles very soon. I'm just getting more equipment and stuff like that. And thank you guys for watching, and that's pretty much it.